EV3 robot kit comes with 4 different kinds of sensors, also known as input devices. By sensor, we really mean a fancy Lego piece that the robot can use to sense what's going on in its environment. This first sensor is called a touch sensor. You get 2 touch sensors in the educational kit and just 1 in the home version of the kit. The touch sensor has this little red piece on the end. Lego calls this the button. If you touch that red button, you'll find that you can push it in a little bit. The robot can check whether the red button on the touch sensor is pressed or released. If the button is pressed, the robot figures the sensor is touching something. If it's not pressed, well, the robot knows that the sensor isn't touching anything, though of course some other part of your robot may be. Regardless of whether you have an educational kit or the home kit, you'll have just one of these things that Lego calls a color sensor, but I often refer to it as a color and light sensor since it really does both. In color mode, it can detect the color of a nearby object. It's pretty limited in what it can report. If it doesn't see one of the 7 colors it knows about, it just reports no color. In light mode, it reports, on a scale of 0 to 100, the amount of light entering the sensor. 0 means it's very dark, and 100 means it's very bright. The ultrasonic sensor is the coolest sensor in the box. It's used to tell you how far away the robot is from an object that the sensor is pointing at. Each kit comes with just 1 of these. Lego claims that the ultrasonic sensor can detect objects up to 100 inches away. Some of that depends on how smooth and how large the objects are, though. You can actually ask the robot to report distance in inches or in centimeters. You'll get back values between 0 and 100 inches or 0 and 255 centimeters. If there's nothing in front of the sensor, it'll just return the maximum reading. So 255 centimeters may mean that there's an object 255 centimeters away, or it may mean that there are no objects in front of the robot at all. If you have an educational kit, you also got this gyro sensor. It senses tilt around 1 axis of rotation. That axis is indicated by the direction of the arrow on the case of the sensor. Theoretically, the gyro can tell you both your absolute angle in degrees, so maybe straight up is 0 and horizontal this way is positive 90 and that way is negative 90, as well as your rate of rotation in degrees per second. Practically speaking, this sensor is pretty touchy. The definition of what is 0 degrees depends on the orientation of the sensor when you connected it to your robot, and it tends to drift over time. We're not going to cover the gyro in this course, but once you get comfortable with using your EV3, I encourage you to give it a shot. There's some cool videos of self-balancing EV3 robots on YouTube that you might want to check out. The home version of the kit comes with the infrared or IR sensor and beacon. You can do a few different things with them. First, you can use the pair to send messages to the robot. In the same way that your TV can sense which button on your remote is pressed, the IR sensor can detect which of the 4 buttons on the IR beacon is pressed. You can also set up the IR beacon to send "Here I am" messages that your IR sensor can detect so that your robot can find the beacon. Finally, you can use the IR sensor on its own to determine distance, similar to the way you use the ultrasonic sensor. I won't be covering the IR sensor and beacon in this course, but again, I encourage you to play with it a bit after you finish the course.